Our next replay here is going to be Scrape 5 by XSquidLZX. I'm going to say right out that I really like this replay. There's a lot of really good stuff in this replay. It's a split cap. Looks like it's in classic gravity. We're going to dive in. Alright. So, to start off, the opener is definitely one of the parts of this replay that I have a problem with. Because, I want you to watch his knees for like these first 20 frames. You see how they sort of like twitch a little bit and lock and all that? Like, that's definitely not something, like, it's definitely a nitpick, but it's something you should really try to avoid as much as possible on your replays. You just don't want, like, too many twitchy, unrealistic movements. Like, realism isn't, like, obviously a necessity in replays, but in this case it just kind of looks a little bit lazy, because it's a lot easier to move this way than it is to move smoothly and relaxedly. So I think that was definitely something that could have been ironed out, maybe made a little bit better. But besides that, the opener is pretty good. He does it with his elbow a little bit too. You can see like he extends his elbow there, then relaxes it, then extends it. So yeah, I'd like to say keep a little bit better track of your limbs and what they're doing. Keeping track of your limbs definitely makes it, like, you just need to make sure that none of your limbs are doing something stupid, basically, is the real idea behind it. Just make sure you don't look stupid. I guess that's kind of like the basis of all replays, I guess. Don't look stupid. But he gets this spin in here, lands in this nice little position, and does a really cool 360, almost 540 even, front kick to get a split. Once again, the liftoff here with his right knee extending maybe could have been a little bit smoother. And it definitely worked very, very well for him, because he's getting a lot of momentum out of this spin. But I don't know if it looks the best. Just like that sudden startup is a little bit odd to me. But his upper body is looking real nice in this section if you look at that. So definitely props for the upper body movement. So he gets this 360 spin, 540, whatever it is, and it looks really good. There's really nothing bad to say about the spin itself and into the kick. The spin into split kick is pretty much about as good as it could have been. So nothing bad to say about that. Then he does a really good job. So normally, what I would say is, like, almost your only option is to grab here. But the kick was made in such a way that he was able to land and the torso is in the air. So he didn't need to do the grab into boring follow-up kick follow-up. He instead gets to do this really cool thing where he lands, gets another really good spin-off position, and then that's one problem I do have with this replay, though, what he does with this spin. So you can see here, just by his stance, that he can get a lot of momentum out of this spin. His arms and legs are all in really good positions to make this a really strong movement. But I feel like he doesn't spin as much as he possibly could have, because if you look at the actual takeoff itself, he sort of extends his right knee here for the liftoff, and I think that might have taken away from the spin a little bit. It really angled the spin a lot, and I think it would have been better if, like, he had maybe messed with the jump a little bit more. I think he could have made a lot more out of that stance he was in. So he gets this nice little this cheeky little kick on the outside of his foot here. I do like that. And then he flicks up the torso bit with his other foot. Before I talk about that, though, I really think this replay might have been a bit better. Like, if I was making it, what I would have done probably is taken this position and then made a bit of a stronger spin, and then made this kick that he uses to dismember the shoulder to be the decap. And then that's that. That's the end of the replay. That would be how I would want to make this replay. Maybe, you see how he's using that follow-up kick on the torso piece? Maybe getting a dismemberment there. And I think I would have ended it there. But his decision was to hit off the arm piece. And that ends up putting him in a little bit of an awkward position, because he kicks up the torso piece. That flows well. But then he goes to grab it. And then, like, he's in a really weird position, and he has to sort of slow his momentum by a bit to make that grab and bringing his foot in for that last kick. Let me see if I can get a good angle for it. If you just look at how he just sort of stops for a bit, like, it's not that noticeable, but he definitely does, like, pause for a bit when he makes that grab. However, how he uses that grab is really well, because he just takes it and smashes his foot in and gets a 4DM. So, I mean, definitely good use of the grab. I mean, he definitely used it to its full effect. He got a really, really nice finishing kick out of that. But I think this replay would have been better kept a little bit more simple, personally. But other than that, pretty freaking good. Our next replay here is going to be King of Amarillo by Zion. Maybe it's pronounced Zion, I'm not sure. But this is a pretty destructive madman, and we're going to look at it. So he starts off with this 100 ED opener. I feel like he drew it out a bit too long. If you know my replays, you'll know that I have no problem with slow openers. But usually, like, at least in my replays, I like try and spin or something. It seems like all he's really doing is sticking out his leg and sort of falling down a little bit. And that takes like 100 frames. And that's a while. I mean, that's a fifth of the replay. So I feel like this is a little bit too drawn out of an opener. And it definitely gives contrast to the later parts of the replay where he's just killing the shit out of everything. But I think it would have been nicer if he had hurried it up a bit. So after the opener, this is why I don't like 100 ED, by the way, because you can see what he did here. Like, he hits the body and like he has to do this weird angle and gets this weird grab, and like I feel like that shouldn't, like, you shouldn't have to put yourself through that. I mean, 100 engage distance is the default, but like I think in almost every case it's better to start from a little bit further away. I never start from 100 ED anymore. But he does this. That's what he did, and so he has to make this really weird grab. You can see that he's like almost grabbing with his wrist here, and that's just not a pretty grab to make, because, and also as a result of the grab, he like breaks the chest. Which, if you know me, I'm not a fan, really, of breaking things indirectly. And so I don't really think his goal when making this grab was, I want to break this chest. I think what he wanted to do was just make that grab and then set up for maybe a left leg kick here. So, not a fan of the split there. Quickly brings up his foot for a nice and interesting boom hitting, a shoulder, decap, and elbow. 1 second. And then he brings it around and kicks it the other way. And I think that's a really cool movement that he does there. My only problem with it is that he sort of like plants his foot and then contracts it again. And I feel like it would have been a little bit smoother if he had not let his foot touch the ground after this kick. Because, I mean, you can see he makes that kick with his left leg and then just reverses everything and makes it with his left leg again. Those two kicks are really cool, but yeah, I don't like the foot planting in the middle of it. The next part here, he definitely slows down a bit the combo. Like, these first few hits definitely had a flow to them. But then he slows down a little bit because he's having a hard time making a decent follow-up to that kick. I honestly don't really know what I would have done in this situation. I don't usually make replays kind of like this. But I feel like he wasted a little bit of time setting his next hit up here. You can see how he sort of just like pauses and gets that grab. And also his lower body isn't really doing much during this whole section either. He's just sort of plants his foot and his leg is back and then the rest of this movement is just upper body stuff. And so I would have liked him to see a little bit more lower body movement during that section there. Really nice job at bringing that foot up for a final boom hit, then give the knee hit, because why not? So overall, like, in terms of sheer destruction, this is a pretty good replay. He does a good job at just making a bunch of dismemberments and making them flow pretty well. My only problem is that his in-between hit movements definitely need a little bit of work, and that's definitely a hard part of replay making the things in between the hits good, because the hits are the easy part, but making the hits look good and making everything around the hits look good is definitely really hard. So I think if there's one thing I don't like about this replay, it's that a little bit more could have been done with the non-hit portions. And our last replay here is going to be from a replay maker that I quite like, Water. The replay name is Drills. It's a nice, real smooth split cap, definitely living up to the name Water. Really good flow in this replay. So we're gonna check it out. So this is Sambo. You can see. Opener's pretty cool. I like openers that I just like anyone that uses their hand on the ground. It definitely gives a lot of movement options that you wouldn't get by just bouncing on your feet. And I feel like that's a pitfall that a lot of people can fall into sometimes. Like, you can definitely use your hands on the ground, and it's great. Using your hands on the ground is a very, very good thing. Being on your feet all the time isn't always great. So he does a really good job using his hands there. Gets a really strong spin. I'm having a really hard time saying bad things about this replay, honestly, because he just does a really good job at flowing through everything. You can see how well he uses his left leg to kick off the ground, left arm, right leg. And then he uses his right arm here, so that's like all of his limbs hitting the ground to make that kick happen. So that's a really good use of your body, and that's something you should check out. How he's just sort of spinning around, he's just using all of his limbs to their full effect to make that kick happen. So really nice job with that. Very quickly after that kick, falls into this position, gets a nice little spin, and a 360 decap there. The decap, I feel like, didn't look as good as it could. It's kind of hard to do that when the head is that low. It's a really awkward angle that he was at. But I think it was definitely something else he could have done there. Maybe he just made it... I don't know if making a back kick would have made it better. Maybe sort of a hook kick. Not like an extended knee kick, but if you just sort of like scraped the head off. I'd have to like try it myself and see how it looks. But that would probably be something I would consider doing for that decap. And then he very quickly gets into a pose there. So, short and simple replay. It's really hard to say anything bad about it because there weren't really any, I guess there just weren't any, like, technical mistakes made that he did. I mean, there's definitely a little bit more he could have done, like, just in terms of ideas. Like, there's nothing here that you've never, ever seen before. So that's one thing that I wasn't a fan of in this replay. It just, like, isn't that exciting, but there's definitely just, like, there's nothing wrong with it, really. And so that wraps up this episode of my replay analysis. You can send in your replays, as usual, to my Yahoo account in the description. You can PM me on the forums. Just give me your replays, and I'll talk about them, hopefully. And I will see you guys next week. What's up, guys? This is Larfen, back with a new episode, long awaited, of my video replay analysis. It's been a while since I made a video. Sorry about that. It's because I'm at college, and being a chemical engineer turns out to take up a lot of your free time. But semester is almost over. I'm just taking a break from studying to make this video real quick. So for the next few weeks, like, it should be like what I actually said it's supposed to be, like one video a week. We'll see. But for now, let's check out this replay by Adam2332 called Booty Had Me Like Aw Fuck My Foot V3. It's a Madman sort of thing. It's very short, 300 frames only, but we're going to take a look at this. Alright, so for the opener, he I actually like this, like the opening to the opener. Like, this seems like this is a really cool position to be in for a Tori, I think, because it's definitely unorthodox. Like, you don't see this very often, so that's one plus for it in my book. You don't see like a position like this very often, and if you've played enough, you can tell that this is actually a surprisingly strong opener. Like, you can see that both of his legs are contracted, both of his knees are contracted, I mean. So that means that it can be really easy to spring off the ground and do something with this opener. So I really like the fact that this is a unconventional looking opener that still has a lot of potential in it. I feel like, though, barring that, he did not use the opener to its full potential that I saw in it. He does an interesting move here. So, like I said, this is an unorthodox position. His chest is rotated right, but his left hip is contracted, which definitely makes it a little bit of an awkward position to come out of. And I really think, like, it's definitely possible to make something smooth. It's possible to make a smooth movement out of almost anything. You just need to put the right time into it. But I feel like he didn't use it quite properly, because he like rotates his chest left, kicks off the ground with his right leg, which is already extended, so he's not getting any power out of that kick besides out of just the knee extension, which doesn't give you the full amount of power that you could get when you're kicking the ground. So if he had contracted his hip a little bit, he probably would have gotten a little bit more power, a little bit more spin out of his kick. Maybe if he contracted his hip here and kicked off and rotated his chest left, he might have been able to do like a little close quarters, almost barrel roll. I don't know if you can see that in the future from this move, but if he kicks off the ground, he can sort of use it to kick himself straight up with a spin, kind of. And I feel like that might have been a better option out of this opener. I don't know if that would work because I didn't make this replay, but it seems like that's something he could have done. Anyway, he kicks off the ground with his right leg here, and he's sort of in a sticky predicament here because so he wants to be kicking forward with his left leg because of his chest rotation. You see that he has his chest rotated right, so that means he's got to rotate it left to get the power out of it. However, the kick that would be getting the power out of it is already completely contracted almost. So he has to do this awkward move where he extends his hip and recontracts it to get that first kick. And so, I mean, like, given this opener, that would have been inevitable anyway. But I think he didn't do a good enough job at making it smooth. And another thing that I don't really like about this first kick is sort of just the position he's in right here. Like, you can see that it's almost like both of his legs are extended. They're, like, the knees are extended, the hips are extended, and his abs are extended. And the glutes are extended. So he's in this really weird spread eagle position, which isn't really the best position. It doesn't look that good, I don't think. And also, it looks like he just sort of, like, stays there because the kickoff with his right leg here doesn't give enough momentum. But gets that first kick, nothing really too wrong with it besides what I've already mentioned. And then basically he does the only thing that he can do from this point, which is get a grab and then do a hook kick here. That hook kick I'm not too much of a fan of again. So like I said, there's not really much he could have done besides grab. I can't really fault him for that. But I think it might have been better if he had extended his elbow here and then rotated his chest right, then maybe gotten like a trans front kick on his crotch there. I think that might have been a better option. But instead he's using his already going left rotating momentum and just bringing his right foot back for this kick. Like, nothing too wrong with the look of the kick, really. It's just more like the power on the hit. You can see that, like, his foot almost completely goes into the head here. I just don't think that's very nice looking. I think it would have been better if maybe he gotten, like, his foot extended and then sort of, like, really gotten under the neck joint and popped it off rather than sort of, like, almost like poking it off with his foot. I just didn't really like the angle that kick came in at. I think it might have been better if he had just done a straight up hook kick rather than a bend and then extend kick. And also that doesn't like fit with the flow very well because he has to like contract and then re-extend his knee. And that probably could have been avoided with a little bit better planning. Like, his foot is already off the ground at this point, so he can easily contract his knee here and not change too much. He can still make that first kick, he can still make that grab, except now his foot would be ready to extend at this point. So planning ahead is definitely something that is useful to do in replays. It's kind of frustrating because sometimes you'll like realize that you needed to plan ahead a few frames late, but I mean the edit button is there, and using it to the best of your ability is definitely what makes a good replay. Anyway, he gets that decap, and then he brings it around and does what I said that I wanted him to do in the first place, but I mean, it's really good. It's a really nice chest boom kick. I think that's definitely like the best part of this replay. He just did a really good job at using all of his body, using his grab, and getting a really nice boom hit out of there. So that was definitely really solid. No problems with that at all. Then he gets his other grab real quick. He's definitely showing a lot more flow in the second part of the replay. Like, it was a little bit goofy looking at the opener, but like once he starts getting his hits here, you can definitely start to see some really nice flow coming in. He's got a really nice grab, brings his left leg in and gets another, is that a boom hit? No, that's just a 1DM. And he's just moving, he's making his hits really quickly and really solidly, so he's doing a really good job at all that. So definitely not too many problems with the second part of the replay here. That crotch kick is also really nice. I really like how he was able to get this trans front kick with his left leg and then immediately bring his right leg in for the follow-up kick. Definitely a solid move. I've used it a lot in my replays to use one grab then kick with both legs in a row. It looks really nice and I really like it, so he did a good job with that. And then he sort of cutesy leaves the crotch block on his foot. I have to imagine that happened by half accident. That's the kind of stuff that you can't really do on purpose, really. I mean, you can see that it happened and like make it better, but like to plan that out completely is almost impossible. But still, it's cute. I like it. It's a nice little flair at the end of the replay. But overall, this is a pretty decent replay. There are a lot of flow issues in the first few hits, I thought, and in the opener. But once he gets past that, like, this point, past the decap, he does a really good job finishing this replay. So, that's that.